Welcome to the RD Squeeze. I'm Nikki.
And I'm Emily.
And we're two dietitian besties here to squeeze out the misinformation around health and nutrition. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the RD Squeeze with myself and Emily. Today, we have another guest with us, a very special guest, Eden Tinkelman. Eden has a great story that she's going to share with us today. And so today we're going to be talking about overcoming orthorexia and healing a health obsession. So just as a kind of future thing, if eating disorders are not your thing, or if you have a trigger by disordered eating or anything like that, this may not be an episode for you. But the first half of the episode, we're just going to get to know Eden as well and have her, talk about her experiences and stuff and how we know each other. So you can listen up until that point and, then shut the episode off if you'd like. But you're more than welcome to stay too. But so Eden is currently a academic advisor at Binghamton University. And so Eden and I know each other because we worked together at Marywood University. She worked in the nutrition and dietetics department as an administrative assistant. And then we kind of became friends. And then we are also in the PhD program together at Marywood. So we are taking classes together as well. So we're always like texting back and forth. But I remembered when Eden and I were getting to know each other as friends that she had mentioned this story. And I was like, oh, she'd be a good guest. So then we put out, I forgot to mention it, but then we put out like a little call for people to, if they were interested. And Eden was like, yeah, like I'm interested. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I was thinking of all the things you could talk about. And I was like, this would be such a good topic because you have a personal connection to that. But before, you have a bunch of other awesome stuff. You're helping run the nonprofit Kindness and Chaos, NEPA. So welcome, Eden. Very happy to have you.
Great to be here.
So Eden and I have known each other for the past couple of years, and Emily and Eden just met today. So, thanks for having us, on the podcast together and stuff. But Eden, I guess tell us more about like all the stuff that you're involved in and like.
Yeah. So currently in the process of moving, so life's a little crazy. Hoping to do that by the end of the month. Actually about to start a summer class right after I close on my house, so that'll be fun. I think it's for diversity, equity, and inclusion. I could be wrong. Running the nonprofit, which has been fun. We just had our second event, and that went pretty well. Hoping for another one closer to the beginning of the school year. Just coming up on my anniversary at Binghamton. It'll be my first full year there, which has been really fun. I actually get to work with the bio students specifically, which relates back to my undergrad as a pre-vet student, so that's been really great. And outside of that, you can usually find me hanging with my two dogs, my fiance, or curled up reading a book with a cup of tea. Currently reading The Inmate by Frida McFadden, and I've heard some very mixed results about it, so hoping to see what that brings, but I'd say that's a quick snapshot of me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good summer reading books, Frida McFadden books for sure. Yes. They go quick.
Can you tell us a little more about your nonprofit?
Yeah, so we just started that February. It's me, my cousin, and her stepsister. And I'm not leading it, so I'm not like, we haven't really had a group meeting yet to like sit down and work out all the mission, vision, all that good stuff. But mostly just trying to help out the community, particularly in the times we are currently in. Our first event was a pet supply swap, so we had people bring their supplies, toys, leashes, whatever, to Blind Cat Beer Co. over in Pittston, and they can either swap stuff or drop stuff off. And if they left stuff, that was going to be donated to Griffin Pond, which I think they donated about a month or two ago when we finally got around to it. And then this last one was a supply drive for the Catherine McCauley Center over in Scranton. We collected feminine hygiene products, toiletries, towels, sheets, lots of pillows, ironically. And that went really well. We just did that last week. And then going forward, hoping for either like a children's supply swap or a school drive for supplies to give to those who need it. And we're set to have our first like group meeting next week, actually, I think, over Zoom.
That's fantastic. So just really giving back to the community, supporting the community and things that might not really be easily accessible in today's climate of financial stress, if you will.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Well, thanks for doing that for the community, and we look forward to hearing a lot more about that as we talk more or get to know you more, and look forward to the future. And Mickey and you kind of chit chat through your your schooling and everything.
Yeah, so Eden, you kind of briefly mentioned it, but I'd love to hear like your like academic background, like because you mentioned pre-vet and then like moved through all different things. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So I went to the University of Delaware. I wanted to make sure I was far enough away from my parents that they couldn't just pop in, but if anything ever happened, I could come home easily. Worked out really well because my second year there, I did end up in the hospital and needed to go home. So smart moves me. I'm okay. It's good. We're all good. But loved it. Really great experience. I was pre-vet, ag and natural resources, and then environmental humanities as my minor. So I was doing basically like back-to-back classes, trying to graduate early so I could go on to vet school. In my very last semester, I actually decided not to go to vet school, though. I had gotten bit by a dog. I hadn't really been enjoying the vet clinic as much, and I didn't get into my top school. So I was like, one and done. This was enough. I'm good. Let's move on. I attempted a master's for animal nutrition down there. Didn't really end up liking my PI all that much, my lab mate, or the actual work itself. I like the concepts of animal nutrition. I don't like the lab work. So I was like, I don't know what to do. I came home, worked with actually someone who works at Marywood. She's a family friend, and we kind of went over things that I liked and enjoyed. Turns out education was a really strong suit. I met Dr. Amy PW at Marywood, and I was like, I'm sold. Sign me up for the master's program. So I completed the master's in higher education administration May 23. We're at 2 years now. Defended my thesis, if you will, and then started the PhD program that fall. Now we're about halfway through. I have about 2 more years, and then I'll be all but dissertation. So hoping to get through that smoothly the next few years.
Yeah, so a couple things. Can you elaborate on, I mean, you talked a little bit about animal nutrition. You mentioned that you didn't particularly care for the lab work. I don't
Yes.
know if you want to elaborate on what like animal nutrition kind of goes into, because I mean, I think that's interesting since we are a nutrition based podcast. I think that's like an interesting thing, you know, to talk about. Obviously, you didn't pursue that, and that's totally okay.
Right.
And then also what you did your master's thesis in,
Yes.
and can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Okay. So for animal nutrition, it's part of pre-vet track to actually take a class on it at the, I believe, 300 level. So I did get like a good deep dive relatively into general animal nutrition, which I think is really, really cool. You know, you get to learn about, I think one of the things I really like is the jaw structure. So if they have more sharp teeth, smaller gut tracts, they're usually more carnivorous as they, you know, some of the teeth dull and they have more molars, omnivore, and then those with larger stomachs and longer intestines and more flat teeth, if you will, are more vegetarian. So that was really cool. I think the bunnies were really cool. They actually, I can't remember if it's like a different pouch of the stomach or it's just something that like happens, but they make this different kind of pellet that they will then defecate later and re-eat because it's more nutritious. Yeah, glad we don't do that. Cecum, also really cool. Not all species have it. Some actually use it, some don't. Nutritional aspects, I mean, similar to us, they still need to hit like certain, you know, daily requirements of X, Y, and Z, but certain things are toxic to them. Different across different species, things are toxic. You know, you shouldn't put cats on a vegan diet because they don't make the things that they need. While you can actually do that to a dog, we don't really recommend it, but like you can. So like those kind of things are cool. And it's really, I still kind of follow this, really interesting to hear different opinions on different kinds of diets. So like some people don't recommend raw. And one of the things we discussed is like raw's okay if you can manage it, but if you can't keep track of it, it's really not great because you'll usually miss key nutrients, which could be detrimental to the animal. So like lots and lots of cool things on that. So yeah, really, really loved it. Just didn't love the lab work. Did not like working with cows. Cows to me are disgusting. They make cow patties, and I'm good if you ever see those I don't know what they're called, but like the circles on the side of the cow, those actually get removed so you can go into their stomach. Smells disgusting, but they can do that. They'll usually like put a magnet catcher in there to catch like the things they shouldn't be catching or eating rather. Yeah, no, cows are not for me. I'm
Wow.
gonna stick to my dogs.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting because, like, I think a lot. I mean, I don't know if this was your case, but a lot of people get into veterinary science because they're interested and they love animals and whatever, and then it's like all this other stuff that goes into it that like
Yeah.
you don't really consider. But like, I never even thought of any of that, so that's so interesting.
No, I'm with you. I don't care for livestock. I'm like, it's cute and it's cool to learn about from over here, but like, I don't. I'm good. We don't need to touch cows. I'll pet a horse. The dogs and the cats are fine. I'm good. Otherwise, that's fine. No.
Nice. So, do you want to talk about your master's thesis a little bit too?
Yeah. So my master's at Marywood. My thesis was on academic advising. I remembered while I was at Delaware, like a lot of my friends didn't have great experiences with their advisor, their faculty advisor specifically. I believe Marywood wasn't a dual model, but they did have a professional advising office if you wanted to utilize that. Otherwise, basically staff or faculty advising. So I was like, that'd be really interesting to kind of study like what's going on there, what's that relationship like, why do some relationships go really well, why do some not. So I did my study, and it was really interesting to just see. First, my hypothesis was right. I did think a lot of students would report less kindly of their professors than the professors rated themselves, which self-bias, but there were some parts that they really did agree on and other parts where there was like this very large mismatch of like what they thought they were doing really well and what they weren't. I honestly can't remember exact details at this point, but basically, some students really liked their professors, some did not, but overall the professors rated themselves higher than the students did. And I still see that. I just did for one of my last classes an interview with students on their faculty advising, and kind of the same thing of like, we wish they would do these things more. So only probably going to continue that research.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And like you said, it's okay if you don't remember. I don't expect that. I just was curious, like, because I know that was kind of like what you were interested in. But I mean, for me as like a faculty member, and I don't know, Emily, like I know you've done adjunct work too. Like, it's hard, like because I mean, I've heard both ends of the spectrum. Like some faculty, like they don't they don't like engage with their students, and they're very much off off hands with it, I guess. And then like for me, like I'm always like I'm trying so hard. Like I'm trying to like be the best that I can, but also I think a lot of faculty are spread really thin, which doesn't help because then you're trying to balance so many things too, and like you want to dedicate more time to advising, and then at the same time you're like if if I met with each student that I advise for like an hour a month, that would be my whole month. Like that would be so it's so hard to balance. And I think sometimes students like they need more of that, especially I think coming out of like the COVID days or whatever. But like they need more advising. But I don't know. It's like it's hard to balance everything, and I don't know. It's interesting to see how so that research is super needed because hopefully then maybe that can help supplement, either workload on faculty and then also like what students require and like how maybe previous things don't work or I don't know, just like all that stuff. So it's interesting.
Yeah. The previous provost of student success there, Paul Ballard, he had mentioned wherever he went previously, they actually shut down the university for like a few days to just do advising. I think it was particularly around registration times. I was like, yeah, you could actually do that and see a lot of students if universities did that. And they built it as part of like one of the pillars, I think that's what they're called, of being like a faculty member. Like you have service, community, whatever. It's like one of their 4 or 5 pillars. So it's really interesting. I myself have like a caseload of 500 students, so I would never get through that. That just wouldn't happen. So what do you do?
Yeah. And I don't know, but yeah, some more research is needed on that for sure. So Eden, we brought you on today to talk about your journey with orthorexia. So do you want to share like everything? I
Yeah,
mean, like how, what, so like what, you can even say like, what is it? Because I'm sure a lot of people have never even heard of this before. So whatever you're comfortable sharing.
yeah. So orthorexia, ortho, I think coming from the Greek of correct. Rexia, I think that just what means disorder or something to that degree, or whatever. But basically, overall, you think that whatever form of eating you decide to take is like clean, healthy, and correct. And it usually entails some form of OCD, so very rigid eating, whatever thing you're trying to eliminate. So it could be carbs, it could be fats, it could be whatever you want that to be, whatever you're considering clean and healthy in this case, and you'll basically cut that out and then you stop eating it. Really, really not healthy for most people. That's not a good thing to do. But yeah, I honestly, it was kind of funny when I figured out that word. I think I was scrolling and I didn't remember my nutritionist actually ever saying the word. I'm sure she did, but like my brain wasn't functioning right at that point in time. And I scrolled and I was like, oh, this is definitely what I have. This is me. And I found many examples of that in my life. I'm like, yeah, we're better now, but that was definitely me. Um, but yeah, I'll just start with where it started. I was 8th grade. I went through puberty a little late, so grew out a little before I grew up. And one of the more popular guys called me fat. And then my best friend agreed with him. I think she liked him, but we've moved past that. We've talked about it. All's forgiven at this point in life. But I just couldn't do it at that point. I was like, okay, I gotta lose weight, I guess. I'm going to high school next year. So I don't know what I read or what I thought exactly, and it fluctuated. I cut out carbs for a while, so like all the sugar, I used to like ice cream and cheesecake and things like that. Done and gone in like a week. Fats was another one I definitely tried cutting out. So like any and all healthy fats, I love fish, but I was like, no more fish. We're not doing fish. So I got very, very skinny. I went down to, oh boy, I think 106 pounds at 5'5", 5'6". So really, really skinny. I also developed really bad body dysmorphia, so I couldn't really see that I was too skinny. I was like, I'm fine. I'm fine. My brain's functioning. I feel fine. I was not fine, let me tell you. I think between my freshman and sophomore year, my dad was like, okay, you're either going to a nutritionist or I'm taking you to the hospital. And I was like, well, I'm not going to the hospital, am I? So we're going to the nutritionist, I guess. And I met Dr. Joy Armale, who I believe is a Marywood alum and has been a preceptor there before. Amazing woman. I will say it 10,000 times over. I think she saved my life. Amazing. She would break everything down, why I need to be eating it, what that did for my body. Always super sweet and calm, never upset at me, never made me feel bad. We'd get on the scale every time I was there and didn't like make me feel bad. She wouldn't even let me look at it, honestly. She just, need to record the number. She'd always ask me if I wanted my dad with me or not. She kicked him out several times for me. There was one point where we were trying to reintroduce food back into the body, and that wasn't really helpful the way my dad was going about it. Like, I should be eating more fats. And I was like, yes, I should be eating more fats. Okay. That week consisted of fatty steaks, pizza immediately. So mind you, I'm starving, but also eating food I haven't eaten in forever. Worse stomach aches and like constantly on the toilet. And I was like, I'm going to die one way or the other. Please stop. So I was telling her this and she's like, you can't be doing this, Dad. We understand, but we can't be doing that. So he eventually backed off. Things got better by the time I left for college. So like senior year, I finally got up to comfortably 118 pounds. I got my period back. Wasn't really probably where I like needed to be, but it was like at a safe enough level where I mentally was okay enough and like everything was just okay enough that I could go off to college 3 hours away. Um, and college actually was relatively okay. I stayed between like 118 to 125. Um, they wanted me to get a nutritionist while I was there, which I attempted to do, but the school was not great about that. There was some other complications, so I just would visit Dr. Armley when I went home, or I had her cell number. So I was like, if we could like text or whatever. That was relatively fine. I still had my little quirks, like, one of the things online says green tea will speed up your metabolism. So I drank a lot of green tea, or hot sauce will speed up your metabolism. So that was everything in hot sauce. Those things no longer exist in my life now, but like did that for a very long while. Once I was out of college and away from my dad, it seemed to get better. And then started dating my ex, and it got a little bit better. He'd convinced me to like try foods I hadn't eaten in a minute, just like not a lot, just a small taste, and remind me like, it's okay. You're not gonna like magically gain weight overnight. Like all the things that a body dysmorphic person at that point kind of just needs reassurance on. And my fiance now, he doesn't pressure me to eat anything, but if I ever want to try it, that's fine. But I've actually developed IBS, so food and I are currently not friends for different reasons, but healthy as a relationship as it can be now. Yeah, that's basically it. I didn't go to a therapist for it. I think Joy kind of did both things for me. And I don't really reach out to her now, but if I ever need something, I will always be like, I know your number. It's still there. Please help me.
Thanks so much for sharing that. Now, I know it's such a vulnerable situation that you were in and you shared that, so thank you for sharing it. I think a couple things you brought up, and Mickey, feel free to kind of chime in if I hit one or two of yours, but I really liked when you brought in like your dad and how Joy, and I don't know, Mickey, if you've met Joy, but I met Joy at a PAND conference just a couple years ago. She was a 50-year member of our Academy of Pennsylvania. And I met her and I was like, oh my gosh. So I'd seen her name, heard her name, never met her. So kind of bringing that networking in again about, where we meet people as dietitians. A lot of conferences. So, but when she brought in like your dad about like, okay, this isn't the best way to go about it. I think that's such a huge point too when we look at adolescents, kids, is like the parents can be a really big reason or part of where maybe some of the traits come in. And I didn't hear that from you, but yeah. When your dad was trying to help, it wasn't necessarily the most appropriate help. And I do think counseling sometimes in younger kids, it's counseling the parents a lot more than the kids then too.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. I'll touch on that though. My dad, I don't get along with my dad. I don't speak to him at this point, so whatever. But he was very like back and forth on his thing and be like, you're sitting there. You shouldn't just be sitting there doing nothing. You're going to get, he wouldn't tell me I'm going to get fat, but like the implication. Or, now you're doing too much. You're obese. Stop. And it's like, I can't be both. What do you want from me? So it's really nice to have Joy advocate for like, you're fine. This is what you need to do. Dad, listen. And I think that's why leaving and just, not being in college, not being under my dad was so helpful, because I can relax and I can do whatever I want my way. And I now have the tools and resources if I need them. So no, I agree. I think there was like a class or something I took where it said like, actually I think as well as at Marywood, I must have been helping one of y'all with something. And one of the questions was like about how parents can kind of help or hinder where students get their children get their nutrition sources from, because students can't usually go buy the sources themselves. So the parents kind of also control that. So it's also, I wasn't buying stuff until I was like 16 and could drive. So it was like, I'm kind of at your hands here. I can't do anything.
And that kind of is that control piece. So if as a child or adolescent, I have a little bit of control over what I'm eating because I can't get to the store and buy what I want, but I can control what I put in my body. And parents are not doing this on purpose. They think they are doing it for the benefit of their kids. And so it's a challenge to say, we understand what you're trying to say and do, but unfortunately that's not working because it's actually causing some of these other behaviors, overcompensating. And when you were going ahead and saying about the green tea and the hot sauce, like at some point there was still that overcompensation then too.
Yeah, fun times.
And then there was a point where you mentioned like you were overcompensating, or I think I was hearing the overcompensating with like your green tea, and you were focused on choosing the hot sauce to kind of continue those healthy eating behaviors, even if you didn't feel that was there because you were hearing that from the media and marketing and social media maybe. And so those are definitely things that can contribute to this orthorexia when we really might not even think that's what it is.
Yes. Yep, fully agree.
Yeah, so Eden, I guess, I mean, you kind of mentioned like a little bit about, your journey and like kind of what started this. So I guess my question for you is, I mean, a lot of people might think, well, that's anorexia, right? Like that's like something. So can you talk about a little bit more about why orthorexia versus anorexia, and like the specific of like that it's usually obsessed with the clean eating, and like more so like what you're eating versus like how much is kind of what I'm gathering. But
yeah,
we just can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so as far as I understand both these eating disorders, anorexia is more just cutting down food. Orthorexia can kind of be the same in the fact that like if you're only eating really clean, you're probably eating less calories, but it's really this hyper fixation on whatever you're deeming as clean. So again, if that's removing carbs or fats or whatever that looks like, it just becomes this fixation. Like you will not allow yourself to eat whatever that thing is. So for me, ice cream, cheesecake all went out the window. Nuts and fish were no longer a thing. And I get like really paranoid if I was like put in a situation where that's what was being served. I was like, what do I do? I don't know. So I'd get really paranoid about it, really obsessive, really very anxious. And I'm already an anxious person, so that was really, really discomforting for me. And I assume anorexia is similar in the fact that like we're probably very focused on those calories and making sure we're not eating too much. But I think it's less about what you're eating. It's just we're not going to go past 1,200 calories, or I just want to look super skinny, whatever that looks like. I can relate to that as much as I can, but it's still somewhat different. If you've ever watched the movie To the Bone, I feel like that's a really good representation of a lot of those eating disorders. And the main character, I believe, has anorexia, but some of her traits reminded me a lot, actually, of my own struggles with orthorexia. So, like, there was one where they say she's a calorie calculator, basically. Like, she can look at the food and be like, I know how much is in that. I'm like, same. I could tell you all the nutrients in that thing as well. Or like hiding behind closed doors to exercise. I'm like, I have also done that. So I think there are some similarities between them, but that cleanliness, that OCD on it is very, very different. That's really my whole experience and understanding of those two things. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wanted to elaborate too, like for the orthorexia point. Like, I think it wasn't coined until 2007, if I'm correct. I did write that down somewhere in my notes.
You said 97.
1997. I'm sorry. I knocked off 10 years. So yeah, 1997.
As old as me.
So like, I don't know when that movie came out, and I was going to try and quick Google it beforehand, but I wonder if like that wasn't a thing, because orthorexia is relatively newer
Yeah.
established diagnosis, whereas like anorexia is like and like all the other eating disorders. Because even though disordered eating, unspecified or otherwise specified, is also relatively new, because sometimes there's a lot of overlap. And you know, Emily probably has more experience with eating disordered or disordered eating than I do in terms of like clinical knowledge. But for for me too, I think maybe clean eating has kind of gotten more prevalent, especially with social media, and the internet. Kind of even in like the 90s, like the internet was still up and coming. And I think you know, in your perspective, it was like the fats were not clean, but even now it's like I can only eat things that are pesticide, hormone free, not genetically modified, and they have to be organic and they have to be this way. And like, then it's like, okay, well, it can't have even touched fat. It couldn't even be cooked near it. And like, so you're basically like kind of cutting out everything except for like fruits and veggies at that point. And even if they have pesticides on them, you're like, that's not clean. Like, so it can also be even like that obsession with knowing where things come from. You said you kind of were very familiar with food labels and like very obsessively looking at what the labeling was and where, I don't know, how like the ingredients and where it came from. And I'm sure like at dinner parties or like whatever, like you would be nervous about what to eat and like how it was prepared, or like going out to eat. So like, can you talk about like any instance where, I don't know, like that was something that was in the back of your mind, and how you, like, what was your experience with that?
Yeah, I think like within the first year or two, I hated going out because I was like, I don't know how this was cooked. If it was cooked differently than how I make it at home, there's a good chance my stomach's also gonna hate me now. I'm gonna be sitting here thinking about it the whole time. Um, so like butter was one of those things I cut out. I was okay with like oil if it had to be sauteed in something. But butter, I was like, we're not doing butter. Nope. So if I wanted veggies like steamed, I'd specifically ask for no butter. And if it would come back with butter, I'd be like, I'm going to die. I'm not sending it back, but I'm dying, or I'm just not eating it. I'm sorry. So that was really, really uncomfortable for me. For like the things I was really obsessed with, it was mostly the nutrients and the calories, as well as the ingredients. So like pesticide, all that stuff, I don't care about that. It's more just what's in this, and what's it being cooked with. So like chicken was fine, but like fried chicken made me want to die. So family gatherings were also really weird for me, because no one really understood it, and I feel like maybe only my one sister-in-law really had empathy for it. So that was really, really hard. I also hated having people over because they didn't understand me either. I could think of a really few good instances. My cousin, she's like I think 30 years older than me. So she came in from Arizona with her family, and they were staying at our house, me and my dad. And I was like, probably maybe 2 years into this of, meeting with Joy, and things were kind of going back to normal. And I had an appetite. I could eat a lot and just nothing would really happen. I just constantly be hungry at that point. So I could make a pound of like beef or ground turkey or whatever. And then like add a whole giant salad bag, and that would be my whole dinner, like that plus all the veggies and whatever. So it was really interesting to see how much I could eat afterwards. But she also saw me do this whole thing before they left for this family thing that I didn't feel like going to. And her comment to me was, "You're going to eat all that?" And I was like, "You're telling this to the person who's already struggling, and you're aware of this. This is good. Please leave my house and don't come back." So I don't like her anymore. So cool things. I think friendships were also really hard at that point too, because my friends didn't really know how to handle it. So they'd be like, "You don't have to exercise. You can eat whatever." And I'd be like, "No, I can't. You don't understand. I cannot." Um, and it was just really hard. I lost a lot of friends because of that. Because it was like, I'm not trying to be difficult, and you're not attacking me, but neither of us are understanding what's happening, like realistically. Like I understand my brain is functioning the way it is, but I can't rationalize it, and you can't understand it because you're not going through it. So like a lot of instances like that. It was really hard, honestly, those first few years. College was a lot better. Yeah. Yep.
I think even to like they're probably coming from a place of caring, right? Like they're not saying it like but you're like but you don't understand. Like this is how I have like how it has to be and like they're not trying to be insensitive. They're just like, "Oh, you could just eat. Like it's fine." And you're like it's different, but they also didn't maybe realize that what you were struggling with if unless you told them. But I even like I one of my best friends at the time, she in high school she had an eating disorder and I had no idea until she told me like after we had graduated. And I was like and I would tell her like, "Oh, you could just eat," but I didn't know that that's what I was saying was like almost triggering her in a way, but I wouldn't have known. But like and we are still friends. Like, but I just was like, how would I have known? Like, I didn't know until you told me. And there were signs, but I just never like I didn't have the knowledge of that beforehand. So I mean, now I have knowledge of eating disorders, but I think a lot of people don't know what to look for or like you know it's just not it's not something people talk about often enough or like know what to look for unless like you blatantly tell them and you don't have to tell them like that's entirely up to you but I don't think people know.
Yeah. I think I had told her. I don't think I really like knew how to articulate to her how what she was saying was making me feel. And I knew she also had a lot of things going on, so I also kind of felt like a burden simultaneously. It's like I don't know what to do. So it just turned into more of like I don't want to say a fight, but I was like, I don't know how to explain this. You don't know how to understand it. This isn't going to get better with what you're saying because it's not helping. And we didn't stay friends. We're cordial now. Like I follow her on socials and she follows me back, but like that's the extent of that. So yeah, it did definitely hurt in a lot of different ways.
I'm sure. And that's where like the mental health aspect comes in because I deal with disordered eating and eating disorders and kind of that orthorexia pretty much every day. I mean, I think we're seeing it very commonly today, especially as Mickey said with like social media, and we see it a lot more in the younger kids. So ensuring you have that mental health practitioner to go over things with, talk about why are you thinking this way. And so can you elaborate, Eden, on your experience with whether it was a psychologist, a therapist, whomever it was, and what that looked like for you, or how it felt at least, and how it helped with the orthorexia?
Yeah. So I didn't see a separate therapist. Again, I don't know all of Joy's credentialing, but she, I think, just understood me inherently. Like I'm very logic science based. So I really needed someone to be like, this is why you need to do this. This is how we will do it. And I think I really needed someone to advocate for me because my mom had also struggled with eating disorders. So she understood what I was going through, but she didn't have a backbone against my dad, and they were divorced. So like what could be happening at her house and his house were very, very different things. So I think Joy just had the backbone to kind of tell my dad to gently go F off and just, this is what's happening. This is why we're doing it. This is why you can't do this. And I think just the gentle reminder of like, hey, you still look okay. Like everything's fine. Like, and I eventually found my own friend group, at the end of high school and when I went to college that just really supported me and again had my back. Like my one friend Eddie, I love this man. I was friends with this other dude and he would kind of like tease me in a way about my body that I didn't like, and Eddie was like, you can't be doing that. I was like, okay, cool. So I don't think it was really, I didn't do any therapy for it, so it wasn't that. It was just
Okay.
having someone advocate and just logically explain things and letting me kind of fix myself at my own pace. I don't know if I like the word fix, but get through it without making me feel any type of way or really pushing me faster than I felt comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I think with I did also look up Joy because I hear her name a lot, and
Thanks so much.
she is a dietitian, and she has a doctorate in education, but I don't know if she has like a behavioral, but it seems like a lot of her credentials and experience is in behavioral therapy stuff. So like she's qualified to talk to you about those things. And I think, yeah, she covers eating disorders, and I think she has that knowledge, so that's where she specializes, which is great. So like you didn't feel the need to do that, but also for you, like you said, it was a science knowledge based thing, and I think that might come with the, and I don't know, but like orthorexia itself, because it's more so focused on like the content in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So she's explained to you like, no, you actually need fat because you can't absorb certain vitamins and minerals without fat at all. So like even if you cut it all out, you're not going to absorb even any of the, so you're even not being healthy. Like it's not healthy to not be like to be eliminating certain foods and things like that. So she's explaining the science to you, and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And so like you're like, all right, so all of the stuff like it's she deciphered the code a little bit. So I think that was probably, and again, I can't say that's for every single person diagnosed with it, but like it definitely probably helped you, and you're like, okay, this makes sense, this is logical, this is why I need to do the thing. So that that is good to know, that like that, you know, that is a potential motivator in somebody's life, that like, hey, like I need the science to be explained. And I'm going to do a little plug here that dietitians and stuff, that is a science, right? Like
Yes.
we like that is like there's so much involved in nutrition. And even from you, like from an animal nutrition perspective, you just explained, you know, the entire digestive system of multiple different animals in like, you know, in a little blurb. But like we try and like make it in layman's terms, but there's so many little bits and pieces that are just so intricate, and it can be hard to explain all that. But also, you know, the information we get, I'm sure, because you said like, oh, I looked up green tea helped with metabolism, like, so that's where people are getting their information, and that's why it's like so hard to overcome the misinformation, which is, I mean, why we are doing this whole podcast to begin with, is just to like help explain like this is how this all works, like this is what happens when we get all this misinformation in a way, like, because it's so hard to decipher all of that unless you have someone explaining it to you over and over again. And I'm happy that it's successful for you, and that it worked out for you. I kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about this too, Eden. So you obviously worked in the nutrition and dietetics department. Did that have any like, I think we talked about this, I think, in the past, but like, did that have any effect on you getting that job with the department? Like, was it like, were you interested? Were like, how did that work out?
Yes. First, I want to do two funny plugs because I think they're hilarious.
Sure.
I turned orange because I ate carrots so much. So she had to break it down why you can't be doing that because it sticks in your fat and it can become toxic. Also, you shouldn't be drinking too much caffeine because then you don't have enough water to break down glycogen and you'll feel hungry 24/7. Fun stuff she taught me.
Hmm.
But as for the job, yes, it was actually part of my cover letter. I willingly admitted in it, like, this thing happened and I love this thing. And I also really love exercise. Like, once I got into a healthy relationship with it, I really enjoyed both things. So it made sense for me to be in this department. Um, and I really loved Jess and Lindsay. They were both amazing and they really sympathized with it. And they were like, this sounds like a great thing for both your interests and what you're planning to do and so on and so forth. So yeah, it was very intentional that I saw the nutrition, dietetics, and exercise science. And I was like, this thing might be really good for me. And I really loved it. And I was able to see how Joy actually was connected to Marywood because I didn't know that. And just, it was wonderful. I really, really enjoyed working there. Miss Jess Fazio, she's amazing. But yeah, very intentional.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just like, I knew you weren't going to stay there long term because you were obviously going to school for something completely different. But it was just like, I was like, oh, I wonder, you know, how that worked out. But so that's great. I'm glad. I mean, hey, we wouldn't be here right now if that didn't happen. So that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But so I guess my next thing is how did you know that you were kind of like in the recovery stage? Like how did you, and like how has it been going, and like how is your relationship with food and exercise different?
Yeah. I think there's kind of like different recovery stages almost. Like there's the physical one. And then there's like a lot of different mental ones, I guess. So physically, like when I said I hit 118 pounds, had my period back, I was like, cool. We're in the I'm not close to dying. I'm good. Like we're okay. We're safe. Survival mode over. The body is kind of figuring itself out. Um, College definitely felt better, like I said, but I can't define an exact moment. I think when I started to give up more of that control, like when I was with my ex and we'd go out and I'd be like, oh, the menu's not scary. I don't mind trying things. If it comes back a little different than I'd like it, the world's not ending. So there's a lot of steps like that where just like things that used to bother me stopped bothering me so much. Um, Same thing with exercise. Like it stopped becoming a chore. And I think actually within the last year, I've recovered more than I would have ever thought, like it or noticed. Like maybe I really thought I had recovered, but like this last year, I'm like, oh, actually, I again now I can't do it. But ice cream, I tried ice cream, and I got like a healthier version because I that's just who I am at this point. But like I allowed myself to eat ice cream and like a whole not tub, but like an actual portion of it, not just like a bite or two. I eat pizza on the regular now. Somehow that doesn't mess up my stomach with my IBS, but like love pizza. We probably eat that like once, maybe twice a month. Um, what else? Just things like that where it's just like, it's okay if the food isn't exactly what I would have loved at one point. Same thing with exercise. This past year, for like at least 10 years straight, I had worked out almost every single day. Not a whole lot of rest days. It's something that helps with like anxiety, sleep, all that good stuff. Um, but this year, just due to different life circumstances, I've missed weeks, if not most of the month, for a few months on end now. And I'm just like, cool. My weight stays the same mostly. I eat about the same. I'm not going to say I don't have body dysmorphic moments where I'm like, do I look the same? But it's very different where it's like, okay, when I actually feel motivated to work out, it feels usually better than forcing myself while I'm tired and not feeling great. Same thing when I'm sick. Like I used to force myself to work out. I once worked out with 102 fever while on my period while being underweight. I was like, this, looking back at that, like, no. I was also home alone. So I was like, that's going to go great. But now it's like, oh, I'm sick. I should go lay down. We're just going to take a rest. If I really need to move, a light walk at most. But like much better. I don't think there's like one certain moment, just lots of different things that no longer bother me that once would have. You still like stand to eat a lot because again, you burn more calories. It hasn't happened in years. I think some of the things like college also kind of took away some of those things. Like you can't hide in a room by yourself to work out. You have to go to the gym because you have a roommate otherwise. You don't really stand at a table to eat in the dining hall. You're usually walking around campus a lot, so you're getting daily exercise. So things like I think that was like where it started to feel a lot better, and then just all those things afterwards.
Yeah, and it's definitely a process, right? It's not like it just happens. It's over time. And I wanted to touch on the orthorexia kind of like diagnosis again too. So orthorexia, yes, you're saying yes, you had orthorexia. And so actually the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual of Mental Disorders, orthorexia is not in that manual, so it's not yet. I think it's getting close. They have not yet come up with concrete validated screening for orthorexia. We just know that yes, it absolutely affects you. It affects your nutrition. It affects your health. So do we clarify it kind of as that and say maybe we're diagnosed? Yes, but in like a medical system, you're not diagnosed with orthorexia. It might be verbally written. So we see a lot more of this though now, and it could potentially be categorized into that disordered eating. So that's kind of where the orthorexia, I think, falls into more now.
Okay.
But like all the things you mentioned, I think too, as you were going through college, I think that's just something, and I don't want to normalize it, but it's a part of that time of your life where you're finding yourself, you're figuring out what's working for you, you're able to kind of be free and to hear and do things that you weren't able to do when you were younger. So it's definitely a different time of life, especially if you do go away to college or if you go somewhere where you don't have your parents and you're trying to find yourself. It's a time where your life is going to be completely different. But then, as you said, as you became educated, knowledgeable from your dietitian about why you need to fuel your body the way you should, why having a period is important as a woman, and why kind of maintaining your weight or gaining some weight is going to be more beneficial for your body no matter what you're doing. You know, I work with athletes, so it's going to help you perform better if you're at a higher weight sometimes than a lower weight, because you're not going to have energy. So those are the things that definitely, like, over the course of your life, it changes. And we see it more in that younger adult population. But that's not to say in the age of like those in menopause that we're also not maybe potentially seeing this now.
Yeah. Also, just touch on the weight thing. Definitely have felt more energized. I've gone up to 145 pounds. That was mostly just from working out and eating to maintain that. Now down to like 130. I started a medication that made me lose a lot of weight, and then different life things that just, I don't have the time and energy to do that at this point. But literally, I don't feel like I have the same energy as I had at 145. I'm not trying to go there because I don't need to. I don't work out to kind of build the muscle I had at this point. But like, yeah, I had a great. The weight is very important too.
So, Eden, my next question for you is: did you think that social media had any sort of impact on that, or was it mostly like personal, outside, like close relationships that were like mostly triggering it, or like what?
I mean, the initial trigger definitely was personal because, like I said, that kid called me fat, and then my best friend, like best friend since first grade, this is 8th grade, so 8 years at least, called me fat. So that was incredibly painful. I think my father's duality and that side of the family struggle with weight was not helpful. They're like, you shouldn't be sitting there doing nothing, but also don't do too much. You shouldn't be eating that, but also why aren't you eating a snack? It's very confusing. And I don't think until I was like in high school is where social media started to like really play too much of a factor. My parents didn't let me have Facebook till about that time, so like I wasn't on social media as much. But then it's very in your face, and all the girls around me were more developed, and I was like, why don't I look like you? And you guys are having fun on social media, and so are all these other beautiful people. And it's like, girl can dream. So I was like, I'm gonna lose the weight, and then I'm gonna be happy like all you girls. And then I'll never be called fat again, and my dad will stop being annoying. Yeah, but true facts, that doesn't happen. People will still make fun of whatever they want to make fun of, and my dad still wanted to have duality no matter what. So yeah, it just is what it is. I just kind of ignore it at this point. If I see social media being rude about it, I'm just like, can't win. But then I'm just like, I'm signing off for the night. That was it. I can't do more with social media.
Yeah, I think too there's filters that you can filter out things now. Like it's definitely come a long way, but the reason why I wanted to bring that up too is like we did look into like a couple studies that came out, and one of the things that was happening is like the increase in usage of Instagram and Twitter and things like that. Now X, but Twitter and just all like now TikTok, like that has definitely increased the prevalence like of orthorexia and like in other people. And then just like in particular, I found this to be interesting. People who were studying nutrition and dietetics, who have already been receiving medical nutrition therapy, so probably seeing a dietitian, increased body mass index was another one, and being single was another thing. So that I hate to say it like this, but like that self-worth component could be coming from that part of being single versus like, because at that time you're looking for peer and potentially like romantic relationships. So if you're not getting that approval, so that social media aspect also has an effect on the orthorexia tendencies, and like those specific characteristics are more prevalent in people with orthorexia. So, which for me, I think that's like one of the biggest things. I taught a freshman class this year, and I'm actually teaching weight inclusivity. I taught weight inclusivity, and it was for freshmen. And I saw a lot of the clean eating talk, like, oh, they eat clean. And I was like, like we,
tell me more.
yeah, I'm like, so what, like you got the dirt off? Like, I'm confused as to what you mean. Like, I don't, so like, I'm trying to challenge that way of thinking, because I think a lot of the students now and people who are getting into dietetics now are thinking, this is why I want to get into it, because of the social media craze of clean or like healthy eating, where that's not really the case. It really doesn't matter, you know, where the food come from, or like what like, it doesn't matter. Like, get that out of your head, because it people can be healthy at all different weights, all different sizes. And Emily and I have talked about this on previous episodes, but like, just kind of getting to that point where like, just because you're thin does not make you healthy. And, you know, just kind of recirculating that. But I definitely think that, I mean, you're closer in our age group, but I'm trying to like relate it to like why the increase is becoming more prevalent. Hopefully we will see that diagnostic criteria come out. But yeah, I just think that's really, really interesting.
Yeah. What was it? Maybe a year ago, I accidentally logged into an old Instagram I had during my like college, high school years. And that Instagram was mostly actually exercise and nutrition, compared to mine now, which is mostly like memes, dogs, and like feminism type stuff. You follow me on Instagram, you know what I'm looking at. But basically, it was very different. I was like, what was I doing? I don't care for any of this. It's stressing me out. So yeah, I think right on the money there. Same thing with the clean eating. I took both as an ag and a pre-vet major, you know, you had to hit certain class requirements, and they overlapped a lot. One that I really liked, kind of sounds a lot like your class. It was a 1-credit seminar series with professor, I don't remember his name, really nice guy, but he wanted to have us, he gave us topics, and then he wanted to do pro cons for each topic. So corn syrup was actually one of them, and I got the pro side of that, so you had to do research on it. And people seem to really hate on corn syrup, or high fructose corn syrup, and I, by the end of it, was convinced I didn't hate it, because the difference wasn't all that major in makeup. And sugar's sugar, so if you're eating, it just didn't have a difference. And then my ag classes, you know, we go over things like pesticides, organic, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know what you guys think on this, but as an ag major, I'm like, cool, I don't care. Organic means it has carbon in it to me. Pesticides are going to be on everything. Wind travels, water travels. Like, you can wash it off if you're going to be that neurotic about it, but it's this very small amount that's not meant to target your body. So I don't know what to tell you. So things like that. I'm just like, also, processed means literally that you've changed it. So an washed apple that's cut into slices is processed. Whole wheat pasta that you want to deem that better, processed. Donut, also processed. But like, those two things are both highly processed, and one might have a better nutritional value, but both processed.
We might need to have you back on to talk about that.
You
a
could
little
do
more.
that. I would love it. These are my, I love.
Well, we'd be happy to. Well,
Yeah,
I don't know about you and Mickey, but I think we got a lot of really interesting personal information from Eden on her journey with orthorexia, how she's kind of, we'll say, recovered. I think it sounds like,
yeah, it's now an IBS problem. It's not a I have a bad relationship with food problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think we should have you back on for the processed foods, because now that's the other thing is ultra processed foods. I'm like, oh my god. But I'm just so glad you said all of that, because I swear people think like we repeat ourselves like about the corn syrup. Like it all breaks down to sugar and glucose in the system. Like it doesn't matter. It's all broken down the same, or like everything you just said. I swear people think it's just like us preaching this like propaganda. And I'm like, no, it's literally all of that. I'm like, it's just like it's crazy like how people take mountains out of molehills, just like. So thank you for just briefly saying that too. And yeah, we should definitely have you back on for that stuff, because that science is so interesting too. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing everything, Eden. I mean, I think this was great, and I think a lot of people will get a better understanding that like of what this is, and how to kind of maybe see it, or like, I don't know, maybe someone might be struggling with that, but it is possible to recover from it. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I'm glad to share. No longer vulnerable. Love talking about it. Anytime.
Yeah. All right. So Emily, should we do our sweet and sours with Eden?
Yeah, so Eden, you know the drill, so you came prepared. So why don't you go ahead, you decide, pick which one you want to do first, your sweet or your sour for us.
Definitely doing my sour first. I got scammed for $2,000 yesterday, and I'm buying a house.
No.
Oh no!
What happened?
I don't want to talk about it, honestly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They'll be disputing it for me next week, and I'm hoping I get it back. But I'm not in financial trouble. I could be dead right now. There was a tractor trailer flipped over yesterday. I could be that person. I'm alive. We're good.
Okay. Well, congrats on buying a house too. That's very exciting. Good luck with moving.
So
yeah,
2 for 1.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah. Congrats.
Do you want to go next, or do you want me to go next?
Go ahead, Mickey.
Okay. My sour is so I've been taking some time off, and it's coming kind of to a close, and I'm sad about it. But I just like being off for a little while and like regrouping and just getting caught up on stuff. So I'm sad about that. But my sweet is tomorrow is my birthday. So the day we're recording today, this episode will come out afterwards. But yeah, tomorrw is my birthday. So I'm very excited about that. And I have a great weekend planned and all fun stuff. So yeah, that's my sweet.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Woo.
What are the plans though? We gotta now discuss.
Oh, so well, tomorrow actually our improv group is opening up Electricity Improv. So the grand opening is tomorrow. So we have that, and then we have an open house on Saturday. Carmen and I are going to do something on Saturday in the day, and then I'm going to have like a little family party on Sunday, and then I actually got dinner with some of my dietitian friends, including Emily, yesterday. We got dinner, and we got to catch up a little bit. So it's been a great week. It's been fun. I'm happy that I got the time off, and like I said, I've been doing fun things. So yeah, that's the fun stuff.
Yes, congrats on your improv group, by the way. Very impressed.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be talking about it so much, but you have to come to a show. Emily came to one, so now you have to come. Bring Tyler.
I will. I definitely will once this house is done. But yeah.
Yeah, we'll have shows every Friday, so you can come anytime.
Okay.
Just let me know so I know that you're coming and that I'm there.
You can heckle me. It's fine.
No. But all right, Em, go ahead.
All right. So to close out my sweet and sours, my sweet is that I'm going to be starting to do some kids cooking classes with another kind of side business I'm working with. So I love working with kids. It's kind of where I first started. Why I wanted to get nutrition too was for prevention. So teaching some kiddos how to cook some more nutritious foods in their bodies, get those in and eat the rainbow. I'm really looking forward to that. So that's next week. And then my sour is just kind of like adulting, kind of in a way going off Mickey's, but like having to work and not being able to enjoy the weather outside now that it's nice out. So,
girl, I'm with you. Why do we have to do adult? I want to go be 5.
I know.
Whose idea was it to work like 40 hours a week? I don't like it. Like
the only
2 days off is not enough.
That's it.
Our society needs to change to those 4-day week,
right?
4 days, work weeks, and 6-hour days. Yes. I'll be very then.
Seriously. We should probably do an episode on that, like the health of like a 4-hour work week or 4-hour work week. Okay,
I wish.
4-day work week, 6-hour day. Because you know what, there's stuff behind that, and I'm sure there's mental health. But like, you need one day to just rot. You need one day to be productive, and you need one day for fun. Like that's what we need. So
preach, Mickey. Preach.
Yeah. But
all right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We had Eden today talking about her experience with orthorexia. So thank you again for being vulnerable and sharing. And she's available, she said.
You can contact me. I'm here.
If you are going through this, let Eden know. Reach out to her. Eden, can we tag you on social media?
Heck yeah, please do.
Okay, so we'll tag her. You can reach out to her if you want some more information. And of course, Mickey and I are always here for you. So reach out to us with any comments, questions, or concerns. And send us your messages as far as what you want to hear in future podcasts and topics. So if you're in the mood for a boost of juice, check out freshly squeezed episodes of the RD Squeeze on Sundays. And we will see you next time. Take care, everyone. Be sure to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram. We will always take topics you want to hear about, so message us for any topics you want to see covered on the RD Squeeze. Don't forget, it's dietitian with a T. We'll see you next time on the RD Squeeze.